Welcome back.
To the Tiny Bookcase. I'm Ben.
And I am Nico. What you're about to hear is an interview.
A damn good one, too. Prepare to learn.
If you enjoy hearing this guest talk, be sure to check out last week's episode where you can hear their story.
Ours, too, if you're so inclined.
So, without further ado,
on with the show.
I'm going to start the interview now with Cookie Cat bouncing around my head. Thank you for that. That had finally gone after about 10 years, but here it is, back again, ready to be sung.
Has it been that long?
It's well, not since it finished. I think it's been like 3 years.
Yeah, right.
But since Cookie Cat entered my mind, yeah.
Wow.
So, Mur.
Yes.
What's the first book you remember reading?
The first book I remember, I remember picking up Beverly Cleary's Mitch and Amy and being so proud of myself because it was the thickest book I'd ever read. It was, I know I'd read some before then, but that was the first book that I just went, I read this book and I'm awesome kind of thing. And I couldn't even tell you what the book's about, but I remember what I felt when I read the whole thing and finished it. I'm sure there were childish readers and stuff like that, but that stuck in my mind of I have read a long piece of work and I am stronger for it.
See, Beverly Cleary is something I've definitely heard referenced in things, but I don't think I've ever actually come across a Beverly Cleary book ever.
Yeah, I don't know how big she is anywhere else, but I read almost all of her stuff when I was a kid. It was it made me love stories. I didn't want to write until I started reading science fiction, but I would just read her stories over and over again. So just about little kids having weird adventures and family drama, and it was just very fun.
Yes, we had the famous 5 for that, didn't we, Ben? Really over here.
Yeah.
Or the Secret 7 as well. They were another one.
And other.
The Tremulous 3.
Yeah.
Possibly problematic Enid Blyton stories. Yeah.
Oh, yep. Thanks, Enid.
Yeah, this idea that it was where you fell in love with stories, but you didn't want to write until you discovered science fiction. When did that happen for you?
I want to say Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. It was science fiction. It blew my mind, and it had a girl protagonist. And those 3 things were just the perfect storm for me to seek out other books that featured female leads. And, it was hard because when I could find them, some of the stories were problematic. I mean, I have good memories of Dragonflight, but I'm sure if I gave it to my kid, they would just be like, "You're seriously." So tell me again how the whole they're not gay, but the people have sex with whoever the dragons are having. Yeah, that whole weird thing. It's So, but yeah, it was that and Dragonflight and Wrinkle in Time just kind of made me want to write. Although my father did once bring me a couple of years ago a stapled together booklet with Mur's stories written very carefully in like a kindergarten teacher's hand from, I'd say, 1979 or something. So apparently I wanted to write before then, but it was after reading the female-led science fiction that made me really want to write.
Did you find anything good in that old book? Any little
I didn't read it.
Polished up of your stories?
No. I just basically figured I'm glad I have it, but it's really unfair to judge Tiny Mur for telling horrible stories, and yet I would still look at it and not say, wow, a 6-year-old did some really cool stuff. I'd just be like, this looks like a 6-year-old wrote it. It's awful.
Oh, no.
And I just worry that some inner bully in my head would judge Tiny Mur, and Tiny Mur doesn't deserve that.
You're better than that, Tiny Mur. Don't you listen to adult Mur, who's Stop internalizing and having conflict, Mur.
Yeah.
We're not doing that here.
Okay. Fair enough.
You're
I'm
paying by
sorry.
the hour, by the way. He's excellent life coach. So what is we asked this question to everyone, and we get some interesting answers sometimes. So we'll go for it. What is your secret talent that few people know about?
Probably my knowledge of sports rules, because I studied to be a journalist, and when I was on my college newspaper, I was in the sports section, and I loved sports watching. I did high school stats keeping, and I know an awful lot about baseball and basketball. Never played, not a team athlete, and the journalism thing didn't work out. And then I found that if sports are pure, then great. But if sports are tainted by money, assault, corruption, it's like it's hard to be a fan of sports these days.
Yeah.
But I still remember cheering on my team as I watched every single, kept track of every single point, etc. And so baseball rules, basketball rules, I know most of them.
What an interesting talent. I'm fascinated. Like, have to have a real depth of knowledge in something as well. And I like that a lot. When you say, I liked when you said that it's difficult to be a fan of sports nowadays, because I completely agree. Like, we recently had the big football competition, the Euros,
Right.
and England was swept with this sort of nationalistic support and fervour for the team that was doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
It had been had done before, and both Nico and I really enjoyed the games. Watched it, but were absolutely horrified about the reaction to the loss in the final, because basically there was this huge outpouring of like negativity and racism and everything from everyone that had been, beaming and shouting about it, and it was horrendous. And I actually haven't been able to watch football since, because I was so put off in what's already a fairly corrupt and grimy sport. You think about all the various corruption things with FIFA, Sepp Blatter, and all that stuff, and then also the various. I'm sure there's just as many assaults in football as there is in soccer and all that stuff. But it was a really tough time. I like that you, because I definitely don't know the rules for sports that I don't follow or play. So that's a really interesting talent. I think that's really fun.
I like that I found the yin to my yang, because I know almost nothing about any sport, including how to do it. So that's excellent. I'm glad that someone exists who.
Yes.
Can I call you sometimes during working hours? I work in a company who's loosely linked to golf, and I know nothing about golf. And a lot of people will say, what about them, golfs? I don't know. Yeah. It was great or rubbish, depending on what face you're pulling.
I golf is not something I really paid attention to. I know there are many, many clubs, and according to Agatha Christie, they used to all have their own little names, but now they're just named after numbers and possibly what they're made out of. But no, I find golf extremely boring and ridiculous. So I think it's because my mother and grandmother watched it obsessively, and I was so bored as a kid. And my grandmother would turn it into a screaming sport. I really wished I could have seen her attend one of these in person and get kicked off because she screamed at the TV nonstop about golf.
Just absolutely yelling at Tiger Woods.
Oh yeah.
I have to. There's a great Mark Twain quote about it, which is that golf is a good walk spoiled.
Yes, exactly.
Or is it? It's either ruined or spoiled. I can't.
It's
misremembering.
it's a good way to ruin a perfectly good walk or something. Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, if Mark said it, it's probably right. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't
Exactly.
argue with Twain. Let's have another question. Mur,
Okay.
what is your favourite story? That doesn't necessarily mean what's your favourite book, but your favourite just story.
That's a big question.
Isn't it just?
We actually find it to be kinder than asking people what their favourite book is. I don't know why, but it seems to go down better. But there's something about, you mentioned getting into storytelling, the concept of stories first. I think people can engage with that on a more emotional level, whereas if you say your favourite book, then it's a bit more intellectual, perhaps. But
I see.
And they say, what's your favourite book? They say, it's a Thursday and I had a sandwich for lunch, which means today it's probably this book. But ask me again tomorrow and it will be this one.
I have two answers.
I'll allow
it's
it.
really okay. Thank you. Friend of mine posted on Twitter, and of course got the weirdest pushback, but posted on Twitter that Avatar, Steven Universe, and Ted Lasso is so popular now because people want to see nice people fighting for good, and she got Twitter hate for that, which is absolutely the most bizarre thing. Yeah, exactly. People should be nice to each other. Screw you. But it's that kind of thing where it was a lot of dealing with conflict by handling it without rage and being nice. And that really resonated with me. She was right, because I love all those shows. So I don't even know if I can do it, because there is excitement in violence. There's a letting go. If you're a healthy individual, you can play the shooty video game, you can read the horror gore fest novel, and then go to work and be productive and come home and be nurturing to your family. I mean, it's you can separate these two, but watching people deal with conflict the way the writers made these characters deal with it was just eye-opening. My second thing is, I'm going to go ahead and I'll choose the first question, because it was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I almost read it too late, I think.
Yeah.
But that sometimes you hear people talk about books that were fundamental to them, and then you read it as an adult and you're like, what? Why?
Yeah.
But you read it at the right time, usually in some sort of adolescent age, and it just like imprints on your mind and changes you. And I read it in 1990, and then I got a friend of mine made a copy of the radio drama, and I listened to that obsessively.
That's a great radio drama. It's a great radio drama. It's really
and in studying humor and in hearing what I've heard about the production of the radio drama, it really makes me appreciate Douglas Adams, because I read a book about writing humor, and people say you either got it or you don't. You can't work on humor, and that's absolute BS, because there is a formula to a humorous plot, and it's essentially Arthur Dent trying to make tea while the missiles are coming towards the Heart of Gold, because it is a person who is in over their head in a ridiculous situation that they have no chance of handling, and they don't give up. So don't give up is the important part. If they let it beat them, then it's not funny. But if they don't give up, so you got Arthur trying to get tea, walking around in his bathrobe, and then the missiles are coming, and he's just, the computer's locked up, and Arthur's just like, I don't know, and then he pushes the button because he's completely inept, so why not? And it saves them, but not because he's skilled. But it's like learning about studying that scene and loving it on the level of a teenager, and it's so internalized that my first book was, now in hindsight, obviously influenced by Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, only I didn't know it when I was writing it. And I probably would have stopped had I realized it. My first book is an urban fantasy about a human who writes travel books for monsters. So if monsters want to go to New York City, where can they get blood? Where can they hide from the sun? Stuff like that. And very obviously, Adam's influenced, but I didn't even realize it until the reviews started to come in. And luckily, instead of stealing or pastiche, they actually said it was homage. So I apparently did that right. But it's knowing what that book has meant to me, both on a conscious and unconscious and literary studying story level. I'm going to say that one. Did I talk too much?
No, that's
no, brilliant. I also fully agree with you. My writing style is specifically 50% like Pratchett and 50% like Adams, so everyone gets into it and no one can accuse you of copying either.
Yes. Boom. Nice. Very nice.
I really like the bit where you said that it's BS that you either have humor or you don't. Like you can learn to write it. Like that's something that I had to really get on board with, especially because in this scenario where Nico and I have now written close to 50 short stories almost together, we perform them together, and as you could probably tell from his story, Nico is very good at humor and gets it right and is just naturally a humorist. Yes. And I am not. I'm naturally a serious writer, so I've often felt like it's sort of like a bit missing that I can't ever get. But there have been a few times where I've deliberately tried to write, and actually they weren't unsuccessful. Tried to write humor, I mean. So it was sort of having the will to try it, and then finding out that yes, you can learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And you will get better the more that you do it.
Yeah. Comedians go over their jokes fine-tooth comb. They are so careful with the timing and the words they use, and then they go up on stage and it's all easily delivered, and it looks so easy, like it's off the top of their head. And they work on that a lot. There's I guess he's a humor writer, a satirist, I'm not even sure. There's a writer over here called David Sedaris who writes a lot of dark humor, and usually real life things that have happened to him. So even if it's dark, it's him being a terrible person and him telling this funny story about how he was a terrible person at one point. And he always does a big book tour in front of a large audience and reads from the book. And I think he always reads one or two new pieces. And he released a new piece during lockdown, and it was not well received at all. Oh. And he realized that he was so used to watching people react to his stuff and fine-tuning it and, editing it so it would be perfect next time around. And he didn't have that. And he didn't realize how much he relied on just the feedback from the audience to realize, oh, that one didn't, that joke just flopped. I need to rework that or something. So, and these are just essays. This isn't like a comedian joke thing, but it was really interesting seeing him try to figure that out.
Absolutely fascinating. I know I was going to say really into, I'm sort of mildly into the American stand-up scene because it's very different to the stand-up scene that we have in the UK. Mm-hmm. And I know that during the pandemic that some people stopped entirely. They didn't tell a joke for nearly 2 years. Some people tried to do like Zoom shows that typically did not go well.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have that room to bounce off, as you say.
Yeah.
And then also there were some others doing like drive-in theatre tours.
The freeway shows, right?
Yeah, freeway show, stuff like that, like outdoor theatre shows, basically.
Oh, cool.
And that just about worked, is my understanding, because rather than people laughing, because you can't hear them because they're in their fucking cars.
Mm-hmm.
They were like beeping their horns whenever they were laughing. so that at least there was some feedback, you know.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So yeah, fascinating. Yeah, the requirement of human interaction to make sure that humor is landing.
Yeah, I was watching. Oh crap! I'm sorry, my brain just completely wiped free. Oh right, the Gamer Awards, GAY. It's from a UK publication called Gamer Magazine. They focus on gaming and the LGBTQ plus group. And so they had the Gamer Awards, and I was watching. I follow a lot of gay Twitch streamers, and several people were up for awards. So I was watching it, and there was the host was an Irish comedian. I think she was Irish, an Irish comedian who just laid it out and said she was really nervous because, as we just said, there's no feedback for her. She just had to do her bit, and I'm sure it went over very well. But she was a very fast talker. So I'm sure you guys would have understood it. But sometimes the Americans are going, wait, what was that? What? Oh, she's onto something else. What? It's a little hard to follow, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the need for feedback. And it's possibly she went so fast because she was nervous and could have needed feedback about that. And that's, I felt a lot of empathy for her because that's a tough situation to try to be funny in.
It's adrenaline, but with nothing to pump the brakes for you. It's amazing.
Exactly.
Having an audience there can pump the brakes, because that the first cheer at the end of a song or the first laugh after a joke, you go, oh yeah, good. Yeah, I do actually know how to do this. I've been doing this professionally for bloody ages. Why am I freaking out every single time? Why is a great example, I sing in a band. Why is the drummer playing the first song at double speed every single show? Because he's so nervous that. But without a crowd there, I can't imagine. I think it'd be horrible. Actually, really feel for someone in that position.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just my excuse for having not done any online gigs for the entirety of lockdown. Sorry.
I think Steve Martin has done shows to empty bars before, because as he was coming up, not now as a lark, but there were times when he had a gig and no one was there and he still did it. So that's some dedication right there for you. Are you familiar with the game Blaseball?
Blaseball? I'm not actually.
No.
Okay, I'll try real hard to sum up. It's a horror baseball sim, and regular people interact with it by choosing a team, getting coins when that team wins, betting those coins on the next game. This is all fake money. This is not free to play, and somebody's kid spent $700. But every week they would add something new, and really it's not about the game, but about the communities that cropped up, becoming fans of basically a random number generator. Started making stories about the characters who are just names who do a random number generator. And it's astonishing to see how much has come out of that. But one of the Blaseball teams is called the Seattle Garages. And then some people launched a garage band calling themselves the Garages and started making songs about Blaseball. The reason why I bring it up is because they've done, they call it quote unquote live, because obviously they have to play it and splice it together.
Yeah.
But they've done a couple of shows with everybody alone in their house doing their part. And I just can't imagine the work it took to, produce all of that, both video and audio. But it's interesting if you're still, not going out a lot, then it might be something to look into, because it's pretty amazing. But yeah, Blaseball's fun, and I talk about it far too much. I'm sorry.
No, it's got it right. Fascinating, interesting new game.
Just Googled it, and one of the players is an ant, so I am on board.
One of the players is what?
An ant.
Oh, which one's that?
I don't know. It's just a picture, unfortunately. One of them appears to be blue and has some bubbles, and one is an ant, and I'm just here for that.
Oh yeah. These are fan representations of these characters. The game company did none of this. They've even released Tlops cards, like Topps baseball cards and had artists draw their favorite team, their favorite person on that card, and money goes to charity for the merch. But yeah, it was a fascinating phenomenon, but it got way too bloated because of the way rules were added every week. And apparently this was a feature, not a bug, but we didn't find out until the end when we were all just trying to keep up, but it's so confusing. And then the sun exploded and everybody died. And so they got funding and now they're bringing it back soon. So, like, slate completely wiped clean so new people can get on board and not have to worry about the 5 different suns that could appear over any game and change the rules. So, it's chaos and it's community building and it's artistic. I did fan fiction for it over Christmas to do a nice little solstice story.
Oh,
it made me very happy to write that.
That sounds lovely. Well, lovely, especially during these times, to be a part of something communal like that is really
yes.
I think, yeah.
No kidding. I think that's one of the things that helped me through last year.
It's wonderful. Well, so speaking about writing stories and that, do you have a particular process that and does it change when you're going from something like writing flash fiction to short stories to novellas, or do you have one process that fits all?
As I said, I'm not good at developing habits, so a lot of it is don't write for several days, feel bad about yourself, write a whole bunch, wear your brain out, and then take a couple days off, and then the cycle begins anew. I always think I can write a short story in one sitting until my brain says, that's an average 5,000 words, and you almost never write 5,000 words at once, and that's a lot to pack in to your brain, one whole story in that 5,000 words in one sitting. But I'll still try. And but I don't think I go to any more different process except to keep the length in mind. You need to think about where certain important points are supposed to go, where certain beats, like the climax or the reveal or the dark night where you almost give up kind of thing, make sure that's in the right place. If you're writing a novel and you put that in chapter 3, people are going to be really confused.
Yeah.
Or no, they won't read it because no one will buy it.
Yeah.
So just in keeping the length in mind when I try to map out the story beats. That's about it.
Are you mapping out the story beats as you're writing, or does that happen before you sit down at your keyboard?
Okay, I am a pantser. I love it's like an actual chemical rush for me to be writing and then think, oh my god, it would be so cool if I did this next. And it wasn't anything I planned, and it wasn't anything that there was no planning, there was no, and I'll get to a cool point where this will happen or something like this will happen. It has to be, it's discovered as I go. I love writing like that. I love that feeling. But when you become a published novelist, you write your first book on spec, which means they want to know you can start and finish a book, so you got to finish the whole book and polish it up and sell that to them. Well, now you are a professional writer, and a professional writer doesn't want to take the time to write a book that no one will buy. So now you have to start writing outlines to give to your publisher, which they think is less work. But for me, it's not, because I write terrible outlines. I don't even know what's bad about them. It's just I turned in an outline that I was really happy with, and it was a murder mystery. And I at the end I mentioned, so this is the killer in the outline, and the comment back was, I think that's too obvious of a killer. And I'm like, it's an outline. I didn't know I was supposed to build the mystery within the outline. And so it's like, I don't know what my outline was missing, and she didn't say, so I'm trying again. And so like little things like that, like please tell me what I did wrong, because I was promising you I could build this up to actually be a mystery by the time I mean, think Agatha Christie trying to pitch a book and say, oh, the boyfriend did it. Don't you think that's obvious? Well, yeah, but we're going to assume 7 people did it before we settle on the boyfriend, and that's what makes the story good.
Here's how you get them. Next time you send one in, at the bottom put, and the murderer was, and then a blank space for them to fill it in. And when they can't, well, I guess it wasn't obvious after all.
Yeah,
only if I have a mustache to stroke or a beard to stroke. That sounds like something I should be sitting back and looking very proud of myself.
I will lend you mine.
Awesome.
I really wouldn't actually, Mo. That mustache has been in some awful places. Oh, like on the end of a microphone, for example.
So much Marmite in it.
Oh, wow. Well, you can save stuff for later, right?
Yeah.
That was a really fascinating insight, because that the joy of discovery of the story that you're writing whilst you're writing it is a chemical rush for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a intoxicating thing to be doing, and well, I know we've had a lot of people on the podcast who are heavily into the plotting side of things. So yeah, it's interesting to see where the distinction between a pantser and a plotter occurs after selling the first book.
Yeah,
I don't think we've ever heard that before, and that's a really interesting take. That's really interesting.
I think discovering as you write makes much better comedy as well. I find if I have a punchline and I write towards it, it's very rarely super funny. But as I'm writing, I think, oh, do you know, wouldn't it be funny if this happened here? Oh, wait, yeah, I'm writing it. I can just do that. I tend to end up with better stuff.
Yeah, you can definitely see that in Pratchett's work, like with the the footnotes.
Yeah.
That's very clearly that he thought of a joke and then just developed very early on the way that he was going to incorporate those jokes was just by footnoting them.
Well, I'm not putting that in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why they often have a very different sort of voice for the narrator. Those little bits, or they reference real world things like British Rail. So I'm also interested to just ask you, just speaking about this writing process thing. I know that you wrote the tie-in novel for Solo.
Yes.
What was your approach to actually sitting down and writing that like? Because obviously that's a novelization of a movie.
Right. That it had some challenges I didn't expect. I'm sure you've heard how Lucasfilm is notoriously closed door with its scripts. And so I was allowed to sit in a room and take notes on the script all day for one day. I couldn't take the script with me. I couldn't take pictures of the dialogue. I had to just sum it up as best I could and then go home. For me, I was very lucky that there was a different book for middle grades and a different book for adults. And I really didn't see the difference because the middle grade looked like a pretty good book for, it could have been for adults, but hey, I wanted to get paid. So I had that to help me with some of the details, and that was a challenge. And then I came across an unexpected challenge in that I had to tell a scene, I had to describe a scene and say the same things that happened as the movie did and the middle grade book did, but use different words. And I really banged my head against the desk. I just felt like I was burning out on ideas. And then I realized that the key came with point of view, because I could tell the same scene with the same actions from a different point of view than the middle grade book did. And, so when he finds Kira again as they're adults in the fancy space yacht, I tell that scene from her point of view. And how she is viewing him after the years apart and what she's thinking. And that made it so much easier. And I was also very lucky to they gave me 3 days after the movie came out. Like, it came out over Memorial Day weekend, so it was a it came out on Thursday night, and then I had the weekend and turned it in on Tuesday. So I had the weekend to just fix anything that looked like it needed to be fixed, and which is good because I really could not picture the train part of the movie, and it was really good to actually see that, and then I was able to visually describe it. But the best part was first they asked me what scenes I wanted to include, because it's not like authors slipping stuff in because they can. They want you to expand the story. That's what they want. And so at the beginning, I had to come up with, a list of scenes I wanted to write. I didn't have to write them. I just had to bring up the scenes I wanted to write. And they only turned down one. I was shocked. They let me have Chewbacca take a shower on the Millennium Falcon using Lando's most expensive products to get the final bit of mud out of his fur. And it's a very funny scene I'm very proud of, and they let me keep that. So that part was really exciting, knowing what you did was canon.
Yes. Is it still the case that George Lucas has to personally sign off on everything, or is that
no? He doesn't own it anymore.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure whether there was some sort of arcane clause in that sale deal.
Nope. They've got a couple of people whose job it is to just know the story, like walking encyclopedias. And like I'm hoping they wrote it down at some point. But essentially, his name is Patrick Hidalgo and Pablo Hidalgo, sorry. And he just is a walking encyclopedia, and he will correct you if you get, like... sometimes people are named, but you never hear their name in the movie, but then, like, you see the action figure and the person they've got a name. Like, if I try to do, like, a woman who has got one line, and I try to tell the scene from her point of view, I named her because I didn't know what her name was. and he's like, no, this person's this name and this is her backstory. I'm like, how the hell was I supposed to know that? But it was a lot of fun, and everybody I worked with was very nice.
Big shout out to Prune Face on that one, I think. The ultimate character whose name we got on the action figure and were mightily disappointed by.
Oh no. Which one was this?
He was called Prune Face. It's from the original movies.
Oh my god.
An alien with a face sort of like a prune.
And his name is Prune Face?
I've learned to understand that it is, yes.
His I guess his parents were not very, or his species is not very
extremely
it's pronounced Uniface.
Yes.
Oh, amazing. So did you that seems like it would be a horrendously impossible thing to pitch for. So I take it they must have approached you to do it.
Yeah, intellectual property stuff usually goes through agents. So what happened was my agent had lunch with the editor, and it came up that I was a big Star Wars fan and would love to write for the universe. And first they gave me a short story to write for Insider, and it was supposed to be about Rogue One, and it was not. This was just a short story, so they definitely didn't need me to go look at the script. So I had to guess at a couple of things, but so that's how I got to know my editor, and she liked what I did, and she kept saying that she would love to have me on a book. And then they said they were giving me a book. They didn't actually send me a contract or anything. And then that book was canceled before it even ever, or the thing that was connected to the book was canceled. So I was bummed about that, and then they offered me solo, and I'm like, well, hell yeah, sure, yeah, let's do it. Very excited. So
that's super cool.
I think it's really cool. I think it's excellent that you did it, and I really like that you, as you say, told it from different perspectives in order to unlock it for yourself as a writer and the audience.
Right.
I think
Thank you.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks for telling us.
But there are people on Twitter, and I'm sure there are other places too, but I hear it on Twitter, who just say, all you need is a good IP lawyer. You can do your own agenting. You can send those emails. You can negotiate prices. And I'm like, I can't get a Star Wars book. No one's going to give me a Star Wars book if I just call up the editor and go, hey. And no one's going to give me foreign rights. No one's going to go over to the book fair in Hamburg and try to sell foreign rights to my book. And foreign rights are pretty much free money. You don't have to do anything except for sign the contract. And so yeah, I am very pro agent. Just putting that in.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing to hear. We haven't had a huge amount of industry talk actually.
No.
I would say with bits and pieces, but it's mostly been about the sort of craft or whatever.
Sure.
So yeah.
All you agents listening, don't be shy. We know you. We're hard to approach. But if you want to represent us, you just drop us a tweet.
If you want some serious Wind in the Willows boning.
Yeah.
Listen, the next part of that story, which was actually set slightly earlier, pretty intense. Right.
I don't even know what to say. I'm just sitting here.
I think we need to move on from that.
Fine, then on with your move.
Situation.
So obviously that's a real high point and a great moment to have had.
Yes.
But down at the other end, have you ever had any adversity in your pursuit of writing as a career?
Oh, sure. Well, I'll point out that Solo didn't do as well in the box office, and I think mine was the first novelization to not hit the bestseller list. Which is kind of stupid to whine that your book's not a bestseller, but you kind of assume if you write a Star Wars novelization, that kind of comes hand in hand. But really, it all has to do with wanting to continue a story. I got a 2-book deal with Orbit to start out with, and I wrote 2 books in the Monster Travel Guide series I mentioned. And I'd planned out like 5 or 6. And one of them was going to include the Dark Force of the Mouse in Orlando.
Amazing.
And they didn't want any more. So now it's, do I write them on spec, self-publish them, or do I try to get a contract and make advance money now? And so I wrote... I switched gears and went to science fiction, and I had a less of an advance and only a 1-book deal. And that was the book that got nominated for the Hugo and the Nebula and the Philip K. Dick Award. Mm-hmm. And when I wrote them a sequel pitch, they said no. So strange. That was baffling, frankly. I'm not even good at bragging about myself or what, but no, I've got enough self-love to think that's baffling. But you can't change their mind. So I'm working on another science fiction for a different publisher, and the idea of making another 6 weeks sequel is it's still a possibility. But it's you can plan out a really long story and a trilogy or whatever, and you can have it pulled out from under you because book 1 didn't sell that well. And that is a really frustrating situation. So, yeah, trilogies are exciting, but they're risky. You, as an author planning a trilogy, it's a little risky. So, those are the big disappointments I've had. I've had other people leave their jobs in the industry that affected mine. My agent quit being an agent, so it's not like I fired her or she wanted to stop representing just me. No animosity. She just didn't want to do that job anymore. And so I had to find a new agent during pandemic. And so, yeah, little things like that can also hit you. And when you can worry that your book's going to be orphaned because your editor doesn't follow through with the publication. Your editor wants to quit or move on or whatever. And then you're handed to a new editor who did not acquire you, did not fall in love with the book. And you just hope that they'll do it justice. So, yeah, that's not. I was lucky with Six Wakes that it did well, but yeah, it could have easily been dropped just because that editor left in the middle of production for that book.
Yeah, purely through chance. That's it's a horrible thing to be having someone else roll your dice on, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you said it's a gamble for an author to plan out a longer story, a trilogy, a longer story series, do you find that if you also the catch-22 there is that if you don't plan out a longer story or trilogy, that can cause problems as well when they're like, well, if this one does do well, you haven't got anything else, so we won't buy this one? Or does that not really happen?
More thinking, I mean, your writer's brain is going to do what it's going to do. If your writer's brain wants to imagine a trilogy, it's going to do that. And you just have to keep up. I am talking about, I had a friend who wrote a trilogy. It was well loved by his audience, and he sold the rights. He sold the first book rights for it to be published, and it didn't sell, and now he's got one book out and two books that just don't have, they're done, and they didn't have anywhere to go. So that was the gamble he made of, he did what I did, which is, write some stuff and put it out for free in podcast land, but it was his goal as well to start doing traditional publishing. Mm-hmm. And that was frustrating. So I'm saying, make your notes if your brain's just chugging away, but I would not recommend writing a second book until the editor says, yes, we want a second book. I'm working on the outline to my second book with Ace. And she wants it to be a sequel to the first one. And as I'm writing the outline, I realized that this sounds silly, but I don't know if it's a series or a trilogy. Because if it's a series, then you can tell a more relaxed, overarching story where with each one has a beginning and end and a couple of small threads that you pick up in the next book. Or if the book is a trilogy and it's got, a novel to set the stage, a novel to break your heart, and a novel to wrap it all up. And they're very different. So I have a message to her in my future just to see exactly what she's looking for. But
it's an interesting distinction, actually. I get you. That's fascinating.
So yeah, I'm not saying that anybody should actually write a second book. I'm sorry, I stepped over you.
That's quite all right. Yeah.
Just gonna say, jokes on you guys. I can't even plan 3 chapters, let alone 3 books. Let's go.
If you had to pick one genre to keep and all the other genres are thrown away, so this is to read or to write or to publish or everything, which genre would you choose to keep and why?
That's an interesting question. Because I'm trying to think about what I have read recently that I would not want to give up. I would probably still say science fiction, and if I can do like a double like science fiction mystery, because I enjoy writing it and I enjoy reading it when other people do it, and I think it's a really cruel question and unfair, and y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. But because I'm not going to throw any other genres to the curb, because a lot of the times we need more than one genre. But yeah, I'd say science fiction, mystery, if you'll let me have it.
I think so, yeah. We get a lot of people trying to cheese that question by saying crime, because then you can write a crime story in...
Right.
As elements of other, this kind of thing. But I like that as well. Just science fiction is the core with a bit of mystery, so we'll definitely allow that. You're right. It is a fairly cruel question.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for someone to say genre is a social construct, so I get to keep all books and then throw us out of defenestrate us immediately.
That's right. It's a marketing term. We just write the books we want, and the marketers put it where they want.
There we go.
Which is like why some stores ridiculously have an African American section. So if you want to find a book by an African American about science fiction, you got to go to that section, not the science fiction section. That's kind of changed, at least around here, but that was just baffling to me. Also, same with like LGBT books, also changing. But
bonkers.
Yeah, it is a weird question. But it's funny. I'm thinking about, well, there's like the stuff I write to make my living, but then there's humor, which I read and write for a lot of pleasure, and then there's specifically Christmas romances, which is my guilty pleasure in the last 3 months of the year. Yesterday, I walked by the bookshelf at the grocery store, and the new Christmas romances are out, and I have to go look at them next time. But yeah, it's like, but I don't write that at all. I'm not good at that. So I've never written in there.
Is this a real genre?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a genre, but a lot of romance writers will write a book about, featuring Christmas. And I love Christmas stories and Christmas movies so much that I've got my I'm always on the lookout for the favorite tropes. And we had on my podcast Ditch Diggers, my co-host and I, Matt, we rated all of the Christmas episodes from The Office, the American Office, and we realized that there's a really terrible one, or it's a funny episode, but it doesn't feel like a Christmas episode. And Matt said that's because they don't save Christmas. It's just like a terrible, mean episode without a good ending, and it's like Christmas was not saved. So yeah, and the thing is, I don't care about romance otherwise, unless it's like a comedy. If it's a comedy romance, I might give it a try. But just like romance, the moon over Cedar Hill, and there's a lonely, grumpy lumberjack and the teacher who melts his. No, I don't care.
Amazing. So it's something about the time of year, like the season itself, that engages that genre for you.
I think so. Yeah. It's weird. I know. I said it's a guilty pleasure, but
I mean, people do go nuts for it, though, don't they? If you think about movies like the Love Actually, or what's the other one called? The Holiday, is it called? Where they swap houses? Yeah.
Yes.
Or maybe is that a New Year's one actually?
No, that's it's Christmas.
Yeah, right.
But they don't actually do anything Christmassy during that. They actually celebrate New Year's, but
yeah, right at the end.
Yeah.
It's I guess what we're saying is a couple of candy canes and a reindeer, and you can get away with a lot of.
Probably, yeah.
Because we're all like, "Way, Christmas time!"
Yeah.
Although we do it. It's quite different, isn't it? We on either side of the pond, just because we don't have Thanksgiving, and we try and do that whole kind of thing in one day. At least that's what it looks like from how I see it. Because I've got family members over in Cali, and it's you don't
have a build up.
I mean, not really. We have crappy advent calendars with a piece of low-grade, long-life chocolate behind each door.
No. You're the country of the advent calendars with scotch and gin and rum in them. Don't lie, because I've already ordered mine at staggering expense to have it sent over here.
They're bloody expensive here as well. When I was a kid, I think this is why I really don't like them, because I'm type 1 diabetic, and when I was a kid I couldn't really eat chocolate.
Oh no.
I used to get the ones where it was just a picture behind the store, and they were biblical, and I just there's nothing for a fucking 7-year-old like, oh look, there she is again, the Virgin Mother. Just like going to Nana's house. This is exactly what I wanted. While my sister's stuffing some slightly
my heart is broken. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That is wretched.
Part of me wants to get those, if I ever have children, to get them as well, just so I can be like, I'm just fucking with you.
You do not have to pass the trauma through the generations.
I never would.
For generational trauma. Oh, you must have been
Boomer.
just slightly born too early to get those, because the other option would have been those. They're a bit fancier, I guess, but the ones that have like Lego or other things that you can build.
Shit me, they're pricey. Have you seen them?
I've literally never bought an advent calendar in my life, so I've got no
Actually,
idea what the price difference is.
How very adventurous of you. No, they. I don't know how much they are now, but when they first came out, they had proper Lego sets behind each day, so they were like 150 quid.
Oh my god, no!
Oh,
I just
yeah.
bought. I just bought the Star Wars one, which has just like a minifig or a ship, or the bad days when you have like a generator from Hoth. But yeah, those are like $39 over here. And we already bought ours this year because we keep hearing bad things about the supply chain. So I'm just like, I'm going Christmas shopping. I don't care. So
Oh, let's not talk about supply chains. I think
yeah,
we
I'm
should move on before
sorry.
we get
I'm
onto that
sorry.
one.
I'm the person who said I didn't want to talk about that. So bad Mur, no biscuit. I don't get to talk for like 3 minutes. You guys go.
No, you are no longer allowed your boozy advent calendar and have to have little pictures of baby Jesus instead.
That is much harsher punishment than I deserve. Wow.
I'm doing it for your son.
Wow. You're just gonna like just ignore all travel restrictions, come over here and rip it from my dead hands or something?
Yeah,
or what?
yeah, that's what I'm gonna turn up. I had to break across the border.
Yes.
Slap a really shitty advent calendar onto your table and leave.
That's actually not necessary. There's so few people in England that we actually know the people that make those, so we can just go in there and replace your little bottles of booze with little hand-drawn pictures of the Virgin Mary.
Wow. That's even worse. But I like it. You guys need to put that into one of your future stories. Somebody fucking up all the advent calendars.
Well,
Bite.
I'll leave that one to you, Nico. I think
Well,
if
To work really, really hard to get a job in there and get everyone to trust you, and then just start messing stuff up.
That's my life ambition. I've always wanted to make advent calendars. Please, let me work for you. I don't know why I picked that voice.
I think this has come up on the podcast before. Actually, you have a thing. You're actually triggered by things going wrong on production lines in factories, aren't you, Nico?
Yeah, something about that.
Yeah.
And Christmas.
If you see something go wrong on one of those, it sends him west for days.
Right. While I plot insidiously about overtaking the advent calendar industry, which is okay because I can just sort of do it in my couple of months a year, easy peasy. What is a quote that you live by, Mur?
I'm still making fan fiction about the person who's breaking into the advent calendar office, but my motto this year is show up, because almost every single thing that I get anxious about is easier to do than I think it is. And my goal is I just got to put on my running shoes and go outside. That's showing up. And not saying I'll turn around and go back inside, but I have done the thing that's hard, which is get it started, and then I might as well just go for a run. Don't put off writing. Just show up, open the thing, and you'll start writing because you're a professional writer and you've done this. And it's just basically trusting the part of your mind that's not neurotic and yelling that everything's terrible, including you and everything you create. So just show up, and then maybe other things will fall into place. And usually it does.
As a deeply anxious person, I really appreciate that sentiment. I really do. And the best thing about it is if you have people around you, and trust me, anyone listening, if you have a friend that you send stuff to when you've drawn it or written it or recorded it, they love receiving it. And they're not just saying it's good because they have to. Your friends want to support you. And it's a difficult lesson to learn, and it feels like a hard pill to swallow. But I consider myself very lucky, and Ben's obviously a big part of that group, to be part of a friendship group who are absolutely bloody brilliant at saying to each other, "Good job, you really smashed that." And all it takes is getting up and doing it, and you, like you say, you're doing it. So yeah, good quote. Well done.
Show up.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I've got a friend I call my electric monk because it's his job to believe in me when I can't. So, lesser known Douglas Adams reference, but still a classic.
Good band name.
Lesser known Douglas Adams?
Yes, that too.
Oh.
Yeah. Show up. So, I know that you're, from what I've seen of your recent Twitch stream, that you were talking about NaNoWriMo.
Yes.
Is this a part of the show up principle for you, do you think?
Interesting. I have not considered it in the realm of my motto, so I don't know. It's a running joke for my Patreon supporters that I don't finish Nano. I never have. But since I know I can finish a book, it's been proven a couple of times. I don't feel too bad about it. I just like to be there and support my audience. But I'm hoping nothing goes wrong because I am the kind of person that can be really thrown when something goes awry. Like last year, I lost my agent, as I mentioned, in November. And the panic of she's leaving. What does that mean for me? I got to find a new agent. How do you find a new agent in the middle of your career? I just that was completely distracting from NaNoWriMo. So got to start anew this year.
Well, I hope it goes well. We're going to be doing it as well this year.
Oh, awesome! Anything special you're doing with your show and NaNoWriMo?
Yeah, we're doing a Nano season, a sort of companion piece to what basically all of November. So there'll be 4 episodes where we talk about our works in progress, maybe read some stuff out and chat about the process, commiserate over the difficulty of writing so many words every day.
I expected to be screaming into the void. So
yeah, that kind of thing. So yeah, we're sort of as I say, a bit of a companion piece. So we're looking forward to it.
Awesome.
How about yourself and the various podcasts that you're involved with?
I am going to be too ambitious and burn out. I'm planning on it. I usually do a daily podcast, and I had a talk with my Patreon supporters. I'm like, you guys realize I have nothing new to say, right? There's nothing new to say about NaNoWriMo. It's absolutely nothing. I would just be saying the same stuff and saying 2021 in front of it to make it different. And they just said it's the action of me supporting them, putting this out, having something to listen to every day that says, come on, you can do it, is what matters. So I'm probably going to be doing a daily podcast and probably some live write-ins for the Patreon supporters in the Discord. And I'm actually teaching a couple of classes. Can I promote something?
Of course you can. Yeah, I was about to say, definitely anyone listening, go and check out Mur's Patreon because it sounds like it's lit.
Thank you. That's patreon.com/MightyMur. But I'm also going to be doing some live classes on the platform Speakeasy, which is another education platform. But what it is live. It's live lectures. So you have to show up and you can ask questions and stuff, and it just they're very hip on the live experience. So I'm doing one in a couple of weeks that's like a how to prep for NaNoWriMo when you got almost a month, and then I'm doing one on October 30th of, oh crap, I just decided to do NaNoWriMo, what do I do? So I think that's speakeasy.com, or a Google will probably help you if you can't find it. And I'll be promoting it on Twitter and my site and my podcast and stuff over the next month.
Wonderful. I think it's a really exciting project and communal group effort. We were talking about communal stuff before, and I did NaNoWriMo last year, but I did it just on my own. Really, we didn't really have any sort of. I didn't engage with the community at all. And it was it wasn't isolating, but it felt a little bit lonely, I would say. So this year, the fact that Nico and I are doing it at the same time and incorporating it into this podcast, and I think a few of our listeners are actually going to be doing it with us. So we've sort of set up a group on there, and everyone's going to be writing. So yeah, it's looking like a fun year for it, certainly.
Yeah. And you guys said it sounds like you have better knowledge of bots than I do, but just in case, there's at least 2 writing bots out there that are amazing.
Writing bots?
Yes.
I've not encountered this.
Oh my god. They do they do like word wars. So you can say, I want to have a word war. The goal is this much write, or sprint. Actually, it's not a word war, but sprint. I'm gonna write for this long, starting at this time. And then anybody else who sees the command can just hit like bang join. And then now, and it'll tell you when to start, it'll tell you when to stop, it'll ask for your word count. And there's one of them that does like magic 8-ball, flip a coin, writing prompt, so it gives you a lot more information to play with to get you going if you're stuck. I'm looking for the bots right now. Where are they? Yeah, they're lots of fun.
My secret has been uncovered. I was a writing bot all along.
Let's see. Sprinto is one of them.
Oh, that's a great name.
Yes, and Writer-Bot is the other one.
Less impressive name, but...
Less impressive, yes.
Dash is also a run. Leave the guy alone.
But yeah, so we have fun with the sprints and stuff. So I recommend implementing that for your community because my audience loves it.
And also, anyone listening, go and check out those lectures as well. They sound like they'll be really useful for prepping for the month of writing. So
yes, I hope so. Thank you.
Speakeasy.com, was it? Yep.
I think so. Yeah. I should probably know this before I promote it, shouldn't I?
We'll be able to find it, and
we can. It'll be fun.
Yeah. So, in terms of the work that you've already written, however, what should people read first? Where's a good place to start with for you?
Well, if you're a huge fan of either Star Wars or Minecraft, I have books in both of those intellectual properties. I wrote one of the Minecraft novels called The Lost Journals. It's a middle grade book about two friends who go looking for, very heavily inspired by Gravity Falls, actually, but about two friends who go into the Nether to seek the writer of a journal with terrible magic spells in it. Terrible as in they don't work. And Solo is the novelization. Tooting my own horn is very difficult for me, but honestly, lots of people have said that if they felt meh about the movie and still read the book was much. It fleshed out a lot of problems people had.
Just from the way that you've described the approach to various scenes, I'm fairly sure reading your novelization would fix a lot of my problems with that movie. So I will be reading it.
I do. Small spoiler: I do tell the story of L3's uploading from her point of view, and since it's heavily implied that basically everything she fought against immediately comes to pass for her. Just to save a couple of humans, I tried to look at it a little differently because we didn't know what she did. And I'll just point out that at the time, the Millennium Falcon had 2 AIs on it. So she joined them. So yeah, if you like those two things, that's a good place to start. If you like science fiction mystery and Hugo Award nominated books, Six Wakes would be the best place to start. It's a clone murder mystery where a bunch of clones wake up among their own bodies, and it's a locked room mystery because they're in a generation spaceship, and they wake up among their own bodies, and they don't know which one of them killed them because they're the only 6 people on board. So they have to figure that out, and yeah, so that's the one people like the best. And then if you really like urban fantasy, Shambling Guide to New York City is the first in that 2-book series. So I actually don't have a whole lot, but it's yeah, that's I've dabbled in a lot of genres. So also, this is very specific, but I'm so proud of it. I keep telling people, if you're familiar with the app Zombies Run,
I've heard of it, yeah.
I wrote an adventure in Zombies Run that's a dark fantasy about people who live in a necropolis and a woman who carves gods out of bone. and it's called Godmaker, and it's not a race. It is an adventure, so you're not like going for a distance or anything. It's just one of the stories that just plays out as you run, and then there are 5 chapters. And this is one of those things where I had something in my head for a long time, and I could never sell it. I just wasn't telling it right. I don't know, but when Six to Start called out for new adventures, I answered it, and they bought it and helped me flesh it out into a race, and I'm very proud of it. So if you happen to run or walk for exercise, the app is free, and the adventure, the first 2 episodes are free.
Brilliant.
Amazing stuff. So
yeah,
if people are running from your zombies, or have just read something of yours, or are stuck on Minecraft, I'm going to guess, and feel like you'd be the best person.
No, I do not give out Minecraft support, either tech or creative.
You definitely do. You definitely do.
I'm
saying that you do. Everyone tweet at Mur about Minecraft
so
tricks and tips.
I played it a lot many years ago. I played it a lot as research for the book, and I haven't really played it since. So I am way out of touch with Minecraft.
I mean,
way out of touch.
It makes you like way better for it than me. So you are my Minecraft expert now.
I think where Nico's trying to go with this is that where can people find you online?
Yes, murverse.com is my site. I've got a pretty Googleable name, so if you just want to Google Mur Lafferty, you can find out all the crap I do. I do podcasts and writing, and I co-edit Escape Pod, which is the podcast magazine. And yeah, but murverse.com. I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/MightyMur, and on Twitter I'm Mighty Mur as well.
That's wonderful. Well, it's been fascinating talking to you, both because your story was really interesting and engaging, and just really got my mind spinning with fairies on Mars, and also because of the industry talk has been really interesting for me, hopefully for everybody else as well, because I think it was really engaging. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed what you guys wrote in. You both packed a lot of story into a little spot. That was really impressive, both of them.
Very kind. Thank you.
Been lovely having you.
Yeah, well, we'll let you go, but thanks again.
All right, take care.
Cookie Cat, he's a friend for your tummy. Cookie Cat, he's super duper yummy.
That's not his normal
Cookie
way
Cat,
to see this
he
out.
left his family behind.
Okay.
I think he's just gone mad. Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Tiny Bookcase.
Remember to subscribe, otherwise you're going to miss out on the future fun.
Also, tell a friend. If you like this episode, link them to it.
We'd be tremendously grateful. You can follow us on Twitter at BookcaseTiny, Facebook at The Tiny Bookcase, and Instagram at BookcaseTiny for updates. Speaking of supporting the podcast, well, magic can only take one so far. The Tiny Bookcase is supported by the generosity of its patrons. Those kind souls have really kept my belly full the last year. Let's cast a spell for them, shall we? For magnificent beardery, let's cast the Chinicus folliculale spell on Gary Laird. For rich ginger tones on the scalp, let us cast the Orangi Hedondo spell for Scott Byrne. And for general fabulousness, why not the Ooh La La How's Your Mother spell on Matthew McLaren?
How do you come up with that shit, man?